Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Asma. Today I'm starting the new topic of general anatomy. This is the general aspects of circulatory system. As there is natural tendency in the human body to maintain its internal environment, and that process of maintenance of the internal environment to its balanced position is known as homeostasis. The maintenance of homeostasis is brought about by a very important system in the human body, that is the circulatory system. It is performing its action along with collaborating function of the endocrine system as well as the nervous system in the human body. The circulatory system consists of cardiovascular system, which is also known as simply CVS, and the lymph vascular system, where there is the circulation of lymph in the lymphatic channels. So these two, the cardiovascular and the lymph vascular system, these are comprising. If we talk about the cardiovascular system, you know that it is composed of very important circulating material, which is a liquid present in this circulation, that is blood. And to pump it out, there is a muscular organ, which is a pumping organ, that is called heart. And the heart, by its pumping action, is circulating all the blood into the pipelines and channels, which are the blood vessels. So a cardiovascular system is composed of blood, heart, and its respective blood vessels, which are responsible to circulate the blood towards the tissue level in the human body. In circulatory system, the very important component is its transporting material, that is blood. I hope you have a very good knowledge of blood in the physiology, but here I would like to share some of its important components. The blood has very important function, that it is going to pick up oxygen from the lungs. It carries the nutrients and water from gastrointestinal tract and hormones from the endocrine system, and then transported it towards the tissues. At the tissue level, all these components are going to diffuse from the capillaries into the intercellular fluid, and that intercellular fluid in return is transporting the cellular wastes towards the blood. The important components in the blood are the plasma and its formed elements. The plasma is mainly composed of water. This is 90% water. The 7% of the plasma has the plasma proteins, and the more important plasma proteins are mainly the albumin and globulin, and the rest 3% are the glucose, amino acid, electrolytes, the metabolic components, hormones, etc. These are present in the plasma. The formed elements, these are in the form of cells. These are the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. The red blood cells are also known as erythrocytes, and I hope you know that these cells are non-nucleated cells having a biconcave disc-like shape. These cells are having very important iron-containing pigment, hemoglobin, which has the ability to bind with the oxygen. So the red blood cells carry the oxygen because of its binding with the hemoglobin, and that is why it is giving it the red color as well. The white blood cells are the cells which are also known as leukocytes. These are very important to destroy the microorganisms, and at the infection sites they act as scavengers to remove the debris and all the dead and injured material from the infected areas. These cells, these are having the nuclei. White blood cells are nucleated as compared to the red blood cells, which are non-nucleated. The white blood cells are of two types, granulocytes and agranulocytes, depending upon the amount of granules in the cytoplasm. The agranulocytes are those leukocytes whose cytoplasm does not contain any granules. These are the lymphocytes and monocytes. And granulocytes are the cells which are having the granules in the cytoplasm, and these are further classified into the neutrophils, eosinophils and the basophils. The other important component in the blood is the platelets, which are flat cells. These are also non-nucleated. The cytoplasm of the platelets do not contain a nucleus. They are enveloped by a cell membrane, and its important function is that they are helping in the process of blood clotting because of having the clotting factors in them. So the next, that is very important pumping organ, which is located in the chest cavity, that is a muscular organ. It helps to pump the blood out towards the whole of the body organs. This is known as heart. As you can easily see its location, that is present in the thoracic cavity, and this is more towards the left side, as its apex, that is lying in the fifth intercostal space, and this one, that is the important site for apex beat. The heart generally is composed of 4 chambers. It has 2 atrium, one right and one left atrium, and right and left ventricles. So it has 2 atriums, which are the receiving chambers, and 2 ventricles, which are distributing chambers of the heart. On the right side, the right atrium receives the deoxygenated or venous blood through the vena cava, and that is going to enter into the right ventricle. From here, it is transported through the pulmonary trunk to the lungs for oxygenation. And from the lungs, the oxygenated blood, it enters into the left atrium of the heart, which is more towards the base of the heart. That is having 4 pulmonary veins through which the oxygenated blood is carried into the left atrium. Then this is transported to the left ventricle, and from here, that oxygenated blood is distributed throughout the body by passing through that aorta, which is the main distributing channel. So according to the function, if you see, heart is divided into a right heart and a left heart. The right-sided heart, as you can see easily here, that is associated with deoxygenated and venous blood that receives very poor oxygenated blood from the body and the tissues, and then it is going to pump it towards the lungs for oxygenation. Here it is going to release all of its carbon dioxide into the alveoli of the lungs at capillary exchange level, and then it receives oxygen. Then this oxygenated blood is going to enter towards the left side of the heart. So the left heart that has oxygenated blood, and this oxygenated blood that is pumped throughout the body, and where it is supplying all of its oxygen and nutrients at the tissue level. So here you can say that physiologically the heart has 2 important parts. It has a right heart which is including the right atrium and the right ventricle, and the left heart including the left atrium and the left ventricle. So right heart is associated with very poor oxygenated blood, so it receives venous blood, and the left heart has to deal with the oxygenated blood, and that is the arterial side of the heart. So to see its anatomical structure of a heart, the heart wall is composed of three important cords. The innermost cord of the heart, that is known as endocardium. Here you can see this is towards the lumen of the heart, and its inner coat that consists of the endothelium of the heart, which is lining the internal side of the heart tissue. So this endothelium represents the innermost layer, which is known as endocardium. Next to that, beneath that endocardium is a thin layer of a connective tissue, and then the middle cord started. This middle cord is mainly composed of the muscular tissue, and this is making up the myocardium of the heart. And as you know very well that the myocardium of the heart consists of thick layer of the cardiac muscles, and the cardiac muscle is, again you have seen, is the striated muscles, but these are involuntary. These are under control of autonomic nervous system. So in innermost cord is the endocardium, which is the endothelium of the heart. Next to that is the myocardium, which is composed of the cardiac muscles. The pumping action of the heart is the result of rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the cardiac muscles. Then is the outermost cord, that is epicardium of the heart. This is making up the external lining, and it is composed of simple squamous epithelium, and this is actually the layer which is the visceral layer of the pericardium of the heart, which is lining very close to the heart surface. So that visceral layer of serous pericardium, which is having the simple squamous epithelium, is making up the epicardium of the heart. So from outer to inner side, you have the epicardium, myocardium, and the endocardium of the heart. And then this is covered by two important layers, fibrous layers of the pericardium, which is having outermost one is a fibrous pericardium, which is typically fibrous layer, and then there is the serous pericardium, which is having its parietal and visceral layer. In between the two layers of serous pericardium, there is a pericardial cavity, which is having a few amount of pericardial fluid as well. So this pericardium, that is the outermost protective fibrous and serous covering, which is protecting the heart from outside. And for the circulation of the blood, there are certain pipelines and channels which are very important part. These are the blood vessels. These are very important, which are distributing throughout the human body, and these are responsible to transport the blood, the oxygen, and all the nutrients through the blood to all the organs and tissues of the human body. The blood vessels are forming closed circulatory system as blood flows in the continuous circuit through the body under the pressure which is generated by the pumping action of the heart. So you must remember that these blood vessels in the human body are making closed circulatory system. There are certain types of the blood vessels, and you must remember the three principal categories of the blood vessels. These include the arteries, which are also known as the efferent vessels because these are responsible to transport the blood away from the heart, as heart you can consider is the central pumping organ in circulatory system. Then are the veins, which are responsible to bring the blood towards the heart. So you can say that these veins are also known as the afferent vessels. These are afferent vessels in the circulatory system. So arteries are the efferent blood vessels and veins are the afferent blood vessels in the circulatory system. So at the tissue level, for the exchange, there is very thin layered capillaries which are present, and these are responsible for the exchange of the nutrients and oxygen from the blood into the tissues, and all the waste components which have to be removed from the body is transported into the blood at this capillaries level. So capillaries are the exchange blood vessels. So if you look at the structure of a blood vessels, that is going to change as we are moving from the heart towards the distant area and towards the tissue area, tissue level. The structure and the function of these blood vessels is changing, and there are also having certain important layers of the blood vessels and their composition. These are also going to change from proximal to distal side. So the structure, the function, their composition, that is changing, and as if we are moving far from the heart towards the tissue level. So if you look at the structure, you can see here that they are going to be composed of three important layers or coats which are known as tunics. So the blood vessels, there are internal lining, again same as the heart. This is the endothelium of the blood vessels, same in artery as well as towards the veins. This is making up internal layer or tunic, which is known as tunica intima. Then in the middle there is a muscular coat. That muscular coat is making up tunica media, and the outermost layer, that is making up tunica externa of the blood vessels. So there are three layers. Internally, tunica intima, then is tunica media, which is mostly the muscular layer, and then outermost is tunica externa. So the composition of these three tunics as well as the function, that is going to be changing from the heart when we are moving the blood vessels and towards the tissue level. These layers and their function of the vessel is changing. So one by one we will see in this chapter the general arrangement and function of all these blood vessels from the heart towards the tissue level. What are different changes which are going to take place, we will see in the next slides. The further elaboration of the structure of the blood vessels, we have seen that this is composed of three important tunicas, which are the layers. These are the tunica interna, tunica media, and tunica externa. The tunica interna, if we see, that is more towards the lumen, so that is making up the internal lining of the lumen, which is composed of endothelium, which is the epithelium of a blood vessel. The epithelium of a blood vessel, this is again the simple squamous type of epithelium, that is known as endothelium. Just beneath the endothelium, there is the subendothelial tissue. this subendothelial tissue that is making up very thin layer just beneath the endothelium. So that's why this is known as subendothelium. This endothelium plus this subendothelium is making up the tunica interna of a blood vessel. Then there is the tunica media. This is mainly composed of the muscular tissue, that is the smooth muscles which are present, and if we look in the larger blood vessels, there are the elastic fibers are also present in the tunica media. So tunica media is the middle layer, and this is chiefly composed of the circularly arranged smooth muscle fibers, and there is the collagenous tissue as well as the elastic fibers are present depending upon the type of a blood vessel. The outermost layer, that is the collagenous and elastic fibrous layer. It has collagen and elastic fiber. So this is mainly a fibrous layer. This is known as tunica externa. And here the direction of the fiber, that is mostly longitudinal. The tunica externa is also having its own blood vessels and nerve. That the blood vessel which is the vessel of the vessel is known as vasa vasorum. So the vasa vasorum is the vessel of the vessel, that is the branch of the artery which is entering into the blood vessel by passing through this tunica externa. This is piercing the tunica media. So that is the blood vessel which is a feeding vessel of that artery. So this is known as vasa vasorum. And the nerves, definitely you have seen the blood vessels have certain function of vasodilatation and vasoconstriction, which is dependent upon the nerve stimulation. So the nerve that is also passing through that tunica externa. So you must remember that a blood vessel generally is having three important coats. The innermost is the tunica interna, and the middle one, which is the middle coat composed of muscular tissue, is tunica media, and the one which is outer fibrous coat, that is the tunica externa. And from that tunica externa, there you can also see the vasa vasorum and corresponding nerve which is passing through that tunica externa. Here I must want to tell you that this tunica externa is also known as tunica adventitia. The other name of tunica externa is tunica adventitia. And same for the tunica interna, this is tunica intima. That is tunica intima. So these are the other names for these two layers of the blood vessel. So here in this picture, you can easily differentiate between the structural composition of an artery. This is the artery and a vein. So if you see from inner to outer side, there is tunica intima or tunica interna in this blood vessel. Then there is the tunica media, which is a muscular coat, and then the most outer one, this is the tunica externa, or this is also known as tunica adventitia, as I have told you. Here you can appreciate very easily the subendothelial tissue which is also present just beneath the tunica intima, that is the endothelium. So this subendothelial tissue plus endothelium is making up the tunica intima. So if you look at this vein here, you can also see this is the tunica intima, the internal endothelial lining with its subendothelial layer. Then there is a muscular coat, the middle one, which is the tunica media, and the outer one is the tunica externa or tunica adventitia. If you compare these two blood vessels, you can easily see that the tunica media is the thickest coat in an artery, that is very thickened. That means the muscular component is larger in the artery as compared to the vein, where they are just making few layers of the circularly arranged smooth muscles. But the tunica adventitia or externa, which is the outermost covering, that is more thickened in a vein as compared to the artery. So this layer, which is the tunica adventitia, that is more in amount in the vein. And if you look at the area which is at exchange level, the capillary bed, the capillary that is just composed of a single layer of the endothelium plus its surrounding basement membrane. So that is only a single layer of the simple squamous epithelium which is making up the capillary, and that's how from that capillary bed the exchange is very pronounced and important. Again, here one important differentiating point, if you see the lumen of a vein, that is more as compared to the lumen of a artery. So the diameter of an artery, that is very narrow, its lumen is narrow as compared to the lumen of the vein, which is very wider. And also there are the endothelial pockets. This is just the endothelium which is making up the pockets inside the larger veins, and these veins are making up here the valves. So these endothelial lined pockets and flaps, these are making the valves in the veins. So valves are present in the veins, the valves are absent in the artery. In this slide, I would like to show you the histological differences which are present in the larger artery and in a large vein. Here you can see this is the portion which is making up the tunica intima here, and here in the vein this is the tunica intima. And this whole portion, that is the largest artery, and I think this is the histological picture of an aorta, where you can also appreciate these wavy thread-like structures. These are the elastic fibers. So along with the circularly running smooth muscles, there are the elastic fibers. These are also present. So here you can appreciate the very thickened wall, the very thickened coat which is making up the middle coat here, that is the tunica media. So if you compare that tunica media with the tunica media of a vein, so you can see very easily that that is very few in amount as compared to the tunica media or the muscle component present in the wall of artery. So in the vein there is very few amount of the muscle, and this is making here the tunica media. But if you look at the tunica adventitia, which is the fibrous, collagenous fibrous tissue which is enveloping the outermost wall of the vein, making the outer coat here, that is more in amount as compared to the tunica adventitia histologically here of an artery, which you can see that is a very thin layer. So you can also see the structural differentiation between the artery and the vein here. So I hope now you are. Now I am starting with the classification of the arteries. The arteries are classified according to the size of the blood vessels, starting from the heart, reaching towards the tissue level. These arteries are the large-sized arteries, which are also known as the conducting blood vessels. This is the functional classification, that these are the conducting arteries, conducting the blood from the heart. They are having a large amount of the elastic fibers as well. So these are the elastic arteries. So you can have different names of the arteries. You must remember all of them, that the first one classification of the artery is the large size conducting or elastic arteries. The example of these blood vessels is the aorta, the common carotid artery, subclavian artery, the common iliac in the abdomen, and the pulmonary trunk. These are the larger one. These are the large sized blood vessels and arteries which are also having the function of conducting blood vessels. If you look at their structure, because I have told you that the structure and the function that is changing from the heart towards the tissue level according to the type of blood vessel. So this artery, as you have seen that the tunica media is the thickest coat which is present in an artery. So the tunica media is composed of 40 to 70 layers of the smooth muscles with alternating elastic tissue, as well as it has to withstand the pressure of which is going to be introduced through the pumping action of the heart. So these blood vessels, especially the aorta, is directly receiving the blood from the heart. So it has to be more and more elastic tissue to withstand the pressure, because they are receiving the blood at higher pressure. Then there is the internal external elastic lamina. You will be clear about these structures histologically when you will study them in histology. And in the tunica externa, definitely there is the vasa vasorum. The function that they are able to expand and recoil, and if there is the atherosclerosis, they cannot expand more. So the atherosclerosis, which are the cholesterol deposition in the wall of the artery, that is more common in these large size blood vessels. Also, they are very prone to the aneurysms and rupture. Aneurysms are the abnormal dilatations and then rupture of the blood vessel, because these are receiving the blood at higher pressure. So here you can see very easily the endothelium, then these tunica media, which I have told you in the large size blood vessel is 40 to 70 layer, and there is the alternating rows of the elastic tissue along with that smooth muscle fibers. And then here in the tunica adventitia there is these blood vessels which are present here. These are the vasa vasorum. So to show you the elastic fibers which are present in the along with the muscles here in the aorta, you can see here that this one that is making up the endothelium and subendothelial connective tissue making the tunica intima. Then this whole one that is the tunica media. Here not only the circularly arranged muscles are present, the smooth muscles are present, but also these elastic fibers, these are also present. So these are mostly present in the larger blood vessels which are responsible and having expansile function. So this aorta has to withstand the more pressure, because the heart is directly pumping the blood at pressure into the aorta. So this has to withstand that higher pressure while it is receiving the blood from the left ventricle of the heart. So that's why this is having this elastic fibers which are increasing the elasticity of the aorta. So along with the muscle there is the elastic tissue, and these are very important to increase the elasticity in these blood vessels to withstand the pressures. And here you can appreciate these blood vessels which are the vessels of the vessels. These are the feeding arteries which are entering into that blood vessel through the tunica adventitia. So these are present and located in tunica adventitia. This is the venule and arteriole. So the artery and venule, these are both known as the vasa vasorum. So these are the blood vessels which are present in the tunica adventitia. These are known as vasa vasorum. So this whole part here which is making up the outer coat, that is tunica adventitia, and in that tunica adventitia you can very clearly appreciate the presence of vasa vasorum. So these are here. So the next important type next to the large size arteries is the medium size arteries. These are the distributing arteries functionally, and these are also known as the muscular arteries. So the medium size arteries are distributing as well as they can be the muscular arteries. The very important function is that they are distributing the blood towards the specific organs, and their examples are the further branches from that arteries which we have seen in the large size. These are the brachial artery, the femoral, the renal, the splenic arteries which are more towards the organ side. So if we look at the structure, it's tunica media, that is also thick, but that is having the muscle layers up to the 40 or less than that 40 layers of smooth muscles. So if the smooth muscle layer is more than 40 to 70 layers, they are making up the large size, and if they are 40 or less than that, size arteries. So here you can very easily see here that this one with very few layers of the muscular tissue in the tunica media as compared to the large size. These are less in number, so these are below the 40. And here this is the lumen along with the tunica interna, which is having the endothelium. Then this is tunica media, and then this is the tunica adventitia. So this is the artery which is the distributing or the muscular artery as well, because these are going to transport the blood towards the organ level. And these are mainly and chiefly composed of the smooth muscle cells without having any elastic fiber or any other fibrous tissue. That's why we label them that this is the muscular artery. So these are, if according to the size you say as compared to the aorta, these are the medium sized arteries. So these are muscular or medium sized arteries as well. Next is the small sized arteries, which are the arterioles, and we say that these are the muscular arterioles. These are the small muscular arterioles, and these are the resistance vessel functionally, because here some resistance is present for the flow of the blood because of the presence of sphincter. So here the smooth muscles, these are present up to 25. So 25 layers of the smooth muscles in the tunica media, these are making up that small size arteries or the muscular arterioles. And only the arterioles, if we label, not the muscular arterioles, if only the arterioles, these are the smallest arteries. These smallest arteries, these are only having 1 to 3 layers of the smooth muscles in the tunica media, and their terminal blood vessel of these arterioles, which are terminal and going to end up into the capillary, these are known as metarterioles. So at this terminal arteriole level, the blood is going to empty into the capillaries, and here is some balance and maintenance is present for the flow of the blood into the capillary, which is depending upon that precapillary sphincter. The precapillary sphincter, it is encircling that metarterioles just like a cuff or a sling, and that precapillary is just a smooth muscle which is making up a sphincter around the area of the blood vessel which is going to enter up and empty into the capillary. So its structure I am going to show you in the next slide. So here in this picture I would like to show you the structure of the arteriole, metarteriole, the precapillary sphincter and its functions. So this is the smallest arteriole which must have 1 to 3 layers of the smooth muscles in the tunica media. So this is the arteriole which is now branching into that terminal arteriole, which is also known as metarteriole. So the terminal arteriole or metarteriole, that is the branch from arteriole which is only having one single layer of the smooth muscles, or either this is the discontinuous layer of the smooth muscle in tunica media. When this meta-arteriole is going to branch up into the capillary network, here it is surrounded by this single cuff of a smooth muscle which is known as precapillary sphincter. So the precapillary sphincters are the smooth muscle, single layer of the smooth muscle surrounding at the branching site of the meta-arteriole which is branching up into the capillary bed. So when this precapillary sphincter is relaxed, then there is a flow of the blood from the meta-arteriole directly into the capillary network. So they are maintaining the flow of the blood into the capillary bed through that precapillary sphincters. So meta-arterioles are also known as the resistance vessels because due to these precapillary sphincters, there is some resistance can be present to the flow of the blood to the capillary network, as you can see here in this picture where the precapillary sphincters are constricted. So you can see very easily that in these areas the precapillary sphincters, these are contracted and they are constricting the lumen so that the blood is not flowing into the capillary network. So when these precapillary sphincters are constricted, then blood cannot flow into the capillary bed, but it is directly flowing into this one another channel which is the thoroughfare channel. This is the anastomotic channel between the arterioles and the venules. So from arterial to venous end, this is a direct anastomotic channel which is bypassing the blood directly into the venous circulation, and that is not entering into the capillary bed. So here you can see that when blood is not entering into the capillaries, then no exchange is possible. So at the expense of the exchange, this is the thoroughfare channel which is directing the blood from the arteries to the venous side. So this is all because of the precapillary sphincters. So when the precapillary sphincters are relaxed, blood can flow into the capillaries and exchange is possible at the tissue level. But if there is no need to exchange and we want to stop the exchange of the nutrients at tissue level, then these precapillary sphincters. So here again you can easily see that this one, that is the meta-arterioles, also known as resistance vessels, because at their terminal points there are the precapillary sphincters are present, which are the ring of smooth muscles encircling the blood vessel, and these are the area where meta-arterioles are going to branch up into the capillary bed. So when these precapillary sphincters are relaxed, then there is the flow of blood into the capillary network, and at that time exchange at the tissue level is possible. But if we don't need the exchange at the tissue level, then there is direct flow of the blood into this channel which is known as the thoroughfare channel, because at that time the precapillary sphincters are closed. So this channel is known as a thoroughfare channel, which is directly an anastomotic channel between the arterioles towards the venules. So at that time the precapillary sphincters are contracted, blood is not going to enter into the capillary network, and so the exchange at tissue level is also not possible. So here you can easily correspond that these precapillary sphincters, these are actually the regulatory components which are helping to regulate and maintain the flow of blood into the capillary network. Either we want that flow, then these will be relaxed, and if we don't want any flow towards the capillary network and there is the bypass of the blood directly from arteries to the. So here I end up with today's lecture. In the next lecture I will move on further with the rest of the classification of the blood vessels. So hope you understand it very well. Thank you very much.